Hey, here is Z.A.P.Y speaking. This is a graduation time, and this is a special year of 2020. There's no prom, there's no ceremony. It doesn't mean we cannot have fun, we cannot share our love. Today, Z.A.P.Y will share our love with you by showing Ryan, which is speak to one of the school in where we live, Vancouver, Canada. We will go through chunk of the video, but we want to show the first bit, and let's watch from the beginning. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Aaron, are you ready?
Oh, you better believe it.
Okay, here we go.
Hello, Kitsilano Secondary School Class of 2020. My name is Ryan Reynolds. I'm a former student of Kitsilano. I'm an actor. I'm a writer, producer. Who cares? You have a teacher by the name of Jonah Eckert, and he was a friend of mine.
Okay, let's pause for 1 second. So one thing that Ryan Reynolds does really well with his humor is he stays serious while making a joke of some kind. So there, he so eloquently puts it, who cares? He has that lovely little bleep sound that I can't impersonate with my mouth. But he does a couple things there to get humor, because humor is so hard. And something I love about Ryan Reynolds is he always gets humor, be it on the spot. If he gets challenged with something like a talk show, he's always quick with it, or when he's doing something prepared, he delivers it really well. And one way he does it is with his breathing, like his deep breaths. So you'll notice that right after he goes, who cares? And it's just this deep breath in that moment to show that, oh, this doesn't matter. It makes it more real, and his breathing helps him facilitate the pausing and stuff like that. So I think that's really well done, and it's something a lot of people don't think about when it comes to comedy and humor and things like that, is how do we use our breathing? How do we use all these different parts of our speaking to be more effective and funnier?
Yeah, who knows? A little pause go a long way.
Yes.
Okay, now let's go to the next chunk.
Which is right now. You can just keep it going.
Awesome.
I have not seen Jonah in 1.2 million years, but in my mind's eye, he's still like a 17-year-old kid. You know, his hair has frosted tips. He always wore shorts, I remember, even if it was -20. Also, I remember when we were graduating, he was super excited because he was going to start a money laundering operation with a cartel in southern Mexico.
Here, let's pause once more here. There are different kinds of humor, and sometimes people use what you could call almost minimalistic humor. I don't know if there's a technical term for it, but where they use very few details to make it funny. But right here, we're using a lot of details to make it funny, and a lot of words, and once again, that pausing. So he pauses after the word one. He says 1.2 million years, and then he adds in the detail to make it funny. Or he talks about this friend of his from school who had frosted tips, or he uses the money laundering, and he's throwing in these little details, and it's obviously tailored to the audience, which is great. You need to know your audience if you want to make them laugh, but he's tailoring it to his audience, and he's using a lot of absurd details to make people laugh, and he's using the context as well. So the context is, this is a teacher, right? This is someone that these kids are supposed to take seriously, presumably that they're supposed to listen to, they're supposed to get information from. But now he's saying, yeah, he had frosted tips, which I'm sure the kids would love to hear. Yeah, he wears shorts in -20 weather. Who knows if it's true, but it's a great detail. Oh, he's a money launderer. And that's a totally contradictory image of a teacher compared to what these kids probably are used to seeing and hearing. So I think that's an entertaining use of detail.
It's so true. Who would think teacher can laundry money? I don't know if it's true or not, but he get his point across. It happened, like he said, 1.2 million years ago. Who cares? It's such happy time anyway. We need to have fun. We need to have some enjoyment. He did a great job to it.
Yeah.
Nothing to complain. Okay, now let's go to the next chunk where he has some amazing speech performance here.
Yeah.
2012. Before that, I was at Prince of Wales. And then at the end of grade 10, I remember the vice principal of Prince of Wales, Dr. Hunt, sat me down and invited me to leave, which, looking back, was just a very Canadian way of...
Just a quick thought here. So there's a couple things he does there to build up to an idea and make it seem like he's thinking. He's not thinking. To me, this seems like it's probably fairly well prepared. He's got a lot of information. He does his best to make it seem unprepared, and he does a great job. But one of the ways he convinces us it's unprepared and that he's thinking. So first of all, when he's talking about going to Prince of Wales, he looks up and away. And that's something a lot of people do when they're thinking. He looks up and away. He speaks slowly, his hands kind of going. And then he comes to his punchline, invited me to leave. Right, and once again, he had details before that, Dr. Hunt, so it's making it seem real, it's making it seem like he's recollecting all these things, and then invited me to leave, which is a wonderful use of juxtaposition of inviting, and which normally means come here, but saying leave, that's a great use of juxtaposition. So he's building up to that, making it seem unprepared by looking away, and that makes it seem really natural, right? And I think, to me, the greatest compliment a speaker can receive is that something's really natural. Oh, that was a very natural speech, because it means that it didn't come across as awkward or overly prepared or robotic. And I think Ryan Reynolds does a great job of being very natural here. And it's because he's using all these little things to make it seem like he's improvising. And of course, he's adding to the humor. Obviously, his primary goal here is to make people laugh. He does give some great advice in a minute here, but mostly to make people laugh.
That is so true. Just for some beginner who just get into the speech here, why is act as unprepared a good thing for public speaking? Isn't we need to be fully prepared when we give a speech? Can you further introduce that idea? I guess some people in the audience, they might not know that.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, you're right. I should have mentioned that. But and unprepared isn't necessarily what we want to go for. It's natural. It's not seeming robotic. We want to seem like what we're saying is sincere. Being natural, having that unprepared feel like it's genuine is important, because if I'm speaking to you and it seems like I've planned out what I have to say in advance, it makes it feel disingenuous. It makes it feel like I don't mean what I'm saying because I had to think about it. If it seems unprepared, then it seems like he's speaking from the heart. Right? And if we don't, and even if it's for comedy's sake, which this obviously is, and in a sense we may logically know it's prepared, if it feels that prepared tone where our voice kind of flattens out, we don't present with emotion, our face doesn't change so much because we're super focused on remembering all of our words. Even if we say something super funny, it doesn't come across as funny because it's robotic. It doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel like it's coming from our heart. Whereas if we present something with emotion and like we're actually thinking about it, then it feels real. So you want to seem quote unquote unprepared, natural, because it makes it feel like it's actually coming from you and not coming from some piece of paper, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I hope that clean the air for our audience. The key here is to communicate from your heart, the very bottom of your heart to the very top of your head.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move on to the next part of the speech.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what Ryan have to say here.
This one little chestnut of wisdom, something you might want to start if you're not already doing it. Totally up to you, no pressure, but one thing that's worked for me is practicing some form of compassion every day, whether it's for yourself or someone else, especially for someone else is good. But you've heard the expression divide and conquer. You see it everywhere. And dividing people is just like a means.
So he starts out with so much comedy and humor, and I treat that as a hook in a sense. I see that as a hook. He's drawing us in, he's endearing us to him, he's making it relatable. By referring to a teacher that was there that we already talked about, he's connecting with the audience, who is presumably mostly the students of this school. He's building a connection with them because they'll know that teacher will be like, hey, him, oh, cool. And so he builds that connection through the humor, but now he's dipping into something more serious. So he's easing up in the jokes. He still comes into it with a bit of humor by saying something like, you can if you want to, you don't have to listen. But he gets into something more serious. And I think that's a great thing to do. You see this in band speeches, you see this in commencement addresses, you see this in any positive occasion, like good, fun event speech, where we start it with something fun and then go into something more serious. And I have to say, he does serious really well. Something I often see when people try and present something seriously is they become oppressive or depressing, where they think serious means you have to have this heavy tone. If you don't work hard, if you don't, which is really oppressive and depressing. But instead, it's got this positive slant to it where you'll notice his voice is still a little bit higher pitched than if he was serious. It's higher pitch. He's speaking a little faster. His hands are moving. He's got energy. So he seems not just like he's being serious, but that he's excited about what he's talking about. And he really believes in it. Once again, there's that naturalness we talked about. But he's bringing a positivity to the seriousness that I think makes it much more compelling to listen to and much more it's much easier to follow, if that makes sense, much easier to follow the advice that he's giving.
Like, can we say in here the technical he is using is use some opposite emotion in his delivery towards his content to create some kind of difference? Like, it sounds a bit weird because it's all serious, but he's saying in a light way. So that might create a contrast that make people have better impression and better thinking in.
And I don't even know if it's necessarily contrast was what I'd call. Like, I see what you're saying. It could seem like contrast because we use the word serious and we have a very particular image. But I think it's, to me, and you're free to disagree, of course, but to me, it's a misconception that serious is contrasting to humorous or positive. I think serious just means important, right? And you can present something important with good humor and with positivity, right? And of course, feel free to disagree. You may think that serious doesn't mean important, but that's how I tend to view it. And I also see this with motivational speaking, where I think the best motivational speeches, which in a sense, this is a commencement or whichever, it's a graduation speech. And when
somewhere there.
Sorry?
I say somewhere around that kind of category.
Yeah. And it's motivational in a sense. Most of those are with graduation speeches. And I think people will often think I have to be serious, and serious means not emotional, not positive. And I think that's a misconception. Positivity needs to be in there because you're trying to motivate people. And if you're not making me feel like I can do it by being positive, and you're telling me, oh, it's going to be hard. Well, I don't want to do hard things. You make it sound achievable with positivity. And that's motivating. Achievable goals are motivating, not just the fact that you could, in theory, do it with hard work.
I agree with you. The key here is to keep people going, keep people motivated. Especially it's a serious concept here. You move on to the life to do something serious. So talk about move on. Let's move on to our next key point here.
Yeah.
And see what Ryan have to say here to our 2020 graduate.
Consider me successful. I don't know, some of you may have seen Green Lantern. But I'll tell you this, empathy has got me so much farther in not only my life, but in my career. Mirroring, empathizing, validating someone else's experience or point of view is just about the most radical act of empathy.
So, two things to note. One, he dips back into the humor with a self-deprecating remark. I think Green Lantern pretty famously did not do well at the box office, and I think a lot of people think it's terrible. I don't know. I haven't seen the movie in years. I can't remember. But he dips back into that self-deprecating humor. So he's been speaking rather seriously, and still that positive seriousness, but seriously. And he dips back in the humor to make sure that people are still engaged in a fun sense. So as much as he keeps the positivity to motivate us, it's nice to just sneak back and have that little like spark of humor come back, so that the audience or whoever's listening has a moment of, oh, this is still fun, and they get reinvigorated, their energies brought back, and they dip back in that humor and they come into it. Again, they're re-engaged. And the other thing he does really well here is he's trying to make something seem like a bigger deal, or he's trying to make something seem like it has a lot of impact. And he's talking about empathy, right? And he's saying it has a big impact. So he starts layering things on each other really quickly. He starts listing things, money, friends, family, right? So he lists a bunch of things really quickly. And that makes it seem like it's got more, it's a larger magnet. There's more stuff that's really compounding on top because he says it quickly. So if you list things quickly, it makes it seem like there's more things and the things are of more value. And I think empathy is really important, but he's actually doubling down on the apparent importance that the speech is giving it or the speaking is giving it by speeding up in that section with that list, because it makes it seem like things are stacking up really quickly.
Yeah, and that is totally great point, especially for someone like him in real world. He's overachiever. Many of us probably wouldn't reach where he is, but it doesn't mean we need to feel sad. And he put himself down to let us feel that way. And that's really powerful. I know that from my first-hand experience. I was talking to one of my family friend, actually. She is class of 2020, graduated from high school. I say, okay, that's all these famous people say stuff in the Wall Street Journal. Have a read. You might get inspired. She told me, all right, I'm not interested. I was like, what? How can you not be interested? They say something wise and that's knowledge. Don't you want to learn anything? She said, they don't care. They don't care about us. So why do I need to listen to them? And Ryan does the opposite. He shows he cares. And he shows he failed in his life too. Everybody failed.
Yeah.
That's the connection.
Yeah. He shows that he's one of us. He's an everyman. He's in a sense, he's saying, I've had my successes, I've had my failures, just like you. Here's how it will benefit you. And once again, by saying he went to this school earlier, he's also showing that relatability, saying, I'm not so different from you. And yes, he's a multi-millionaire. I can't say that for sure, but he's done quite well for himself. He's acted in big movies. I seem to remember hearing that he bought some gin company. He's doing all right. He's doing better than most of us.
Yeah.
But he's still able to build that, oh, I'm just like you. And that's a very difficult thing in speaking, but it's a very important thing in speaking. Build relatability. So yeah, that was an excellent point.
Well, thanks. And I think he's just such an amazing speaker to make thing to relate. Then now let's go to the end of this video, and that's the end of he has some wise word. A little bit joke want to tell us about it.
I know that as soon as you saw me, you were expecting dick jokes. I'm going to save those, though, for your university commencement speech, where you'll need them. Not that you have to go to university. God knows I didn't. So we talked all night about the rest of our lives. Where we're gonna...
Something that Ryan Reynolds does incredibly well, and I've always loved his ability to do this in movies, whatever, is his deadpan. His ability to almost like look dead into a camera and go blank-faced and have this almost 1,000-yard stare going where he looks into the distance and his face loses all emotion, his jaw goes slack. And he goes, and like there, he's saying, you don't have to go to university. This goes like this. God knows I didn't. And there's this vague look of I don't know if it's horror or disappointment or something in his face. It may be just a lack of emotion, whatever it is, it always gets me. I think it's hilarious. It's difficult to do in a way, because I definitely can't do it. I saw the picture of myself on the screen doing it, and it didn't look right. But he's able to do it so well, and it takes the humor to another level. That use of facial expression, that use of the deadpan. Also, he's ending his speech on a very entertaining note. He had his important moment of this is what I want you to take away. And then he ends with this fun thing being like, oh, I'll be at your university commencement speech with dick jokes, ha ha ha. And then he goes the deadpan and he leaves it. And I think the next thing he does is he says he's buying everyone a pizza.
It happened.
Korea.
Yeah, that's good. And Ryan did one thing, this whole video, really good. He demonstrates his main message. His main message of the whole video is to have empathy. And so on this whole video, he shows he's empathetic person. Just not saying empathy get me really far. He actually using the words and tones and on these jokes to make himself relatable. Because again, he cares. An audience only listen to the speaker if the speaker truly cares. Audience know. We don't need to know the technical of a speech to see if anybody cares. And that's human emotion. People can feel it. And this is what I think what Z.A.P.Y want to bring to you here is show the emotion, speak from your heart. If you really care about a subject, don't be afraid to show it.
And that comes back to that idea that we talked about earlier of being genuine. If we're genuine, the audience can read that. They don't need to be a professional speaking coach. They don't need to be a public speaking expert. They don't need to be a psychologist. They don't need to be anything. People see, in general, people can see when you're being real. It's human nature to look for lies, and if we find them, to distrust that person. So he did a great job of seeming very genuine in that. And he is talking about empathy, about feeling with someone, not just feeling for, and about compassion. And it does make sense. And he also lives the way he talks. So he's demonstrating that here. He gives everyone a free pizza. That's a really nice thing to do. That's compassionate. He feels for their situation. They can't have their grad parties. They can't have all this stuff. They have to stay indoors. So he gives them all a free pizza, right? That's a legitimately nice, compassionate thing to do, right? So it lines up with the message. So
absolutely, a little gift. And this video is a gift from Z.A.P.Y to all the class of 2020. We don't have the capital yet to buy everybody a pizza. We want to make this video to show our audience. There's maybe some younger audience here, and they on their way out want to learn public speaking. If you are there listening, we want you to know we care. Be empathetic and care about people. Be loving, and that's basically why we started the channel. We want to share our love for public speaking with people who out there who are interested in. I would say that's can bring pretty close to the end of this video. And the end, I just want to add, congratulate to all the class of 2020. You have done an amazing job for 4 years, and you should celebrate in any capacity you can. I'm for sure Aaron has something to add in the end.
Definitely try and have fun with it. I mean, I know we're all stuck indoors, but have a great time with it. Enjoy the graduation. I remember mine, and as much as a lot of my time was spent indoors, we're still able to have fun. Just as one last thing before we go, I want to give a quick recap of the key ideas. So for anyone who does want to learn some speaking stuff, it's nice to have a quick recap. So the things we mainly talked about were, in terms of humor, the use of pausing. So Ryan Reynolds does a great job of using pauses and his breathing to really exaggerate moments and make things stand out. And when he gives these extra details, he uses lots of pausing to make them appear. Another thing he does exceptionally well is he appears genuine when he's speaking. He does this by sometimes seeming unprepared, by making it look like he's thinking, looking up and away, speaking slowly, and once again adding in those details. And that makes him appear more genuine, like he's actually coming up with it on the spot, even if it is, as I guess, somewhat well prepared. He's definitely had some time to think about it, so I'm sure he put in a bit of effort in preparing it. Another thing that we talked about was making sure that not going too depressing when we're being serious, and instead using some positivity. And even when we are doing that, we need to dip in and out of humor to keep our audience engaged. And lastly, the importance of that deadpan facial expression with really entertaining people and having fun with our speaking. So I think Ryan Reynolds did a great job, and congratulations to the graduates of 2020. It may not be the grad party you're hoping for, but I still hope it's awesome.
Yeah, you deserve every right to have fun, and you can delay your party. End of summers, you can still do it.
Yeah, there's always next year's grad party. You can crash that one.
Okay, and there's always the next video from Z.A.P.Y speaking. Let's wrap up for this video, and see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.